I don't know about you, but my capacity to do anything has like enormously shrunk. And right now, with my wonderful audio engineering, you can hear in the background life happening in my house. And simply because I have procrastinated putting out an episode for so long, that now when I finally can get that time where I'm like pushing myself to do it, everyone else in the house is like not cooperating, which is fine. So that's real. That's reality, right? That's like what we're all here experiencing. The episode today is really just going to be somewhat of a free form flow stream of consciousness thingy, because I've tried multiple times to write something. I've tried multiple times to download a very profound message. I've tried multiple times to just chicken scratch on a notepad, anything, looking in old journals, looking for new ideas, asking for new ideas. And I've come to the realization that I'm not getting any information the way I used to, because a lot of it was filtered through a very dense part of my ego. And what's happening right now is we're all experiencing density in different ways, in the ways that are most pronounced for each of us. And we're experiencing situations that are gonna most effectively fuck with our shit so that we can open our eyes and somehow move through it. Although don't ask me any advice or for any readings right now, because I don't have the capacity to do this for anybody else at the moment. Although if you call me up, I will probably just get to talking and want to do it anyway. I've just noticed that my energy level and my battery is 1,000% depleted, but it almost feels like it's not even just that it's depleted. It's like it's time to get a new battery pack. You know how like when your battery burns out in your laptop and it's like burning your lap, and you're like, oh, I think it's time to get like an upgrade of a battery even. So, and I just finished listening to Jessa Reed's newest episode on Awakening OD about system upgrades. And, you know, this is stuff a lot of us have been talking about for a little while. Your bodies are changing. And along with your body, your perception is shifting. Your perception is changing, but it's changing in a way that is completely unique to you. So if you have an issue with a certain aspect of maybe the way you communicate, you're going to be met with that issue, because what you perceive is going to be directly related to how you communicate in a way that's a little bit more magnified. For you, this is all a gift. This is a gift for you to perceive things in a way that's super uncomfortable or super weird, so that you can get through it, so that you can see it literally in a new light. Speaking in new light, how about that sky? I've been talking about this a lot, but like I just can't get over it. It's a fucking weird sky. Like the light is brighter, everything's a little bit more vibrant. I think anyone who is paying closer attention to how their systems work is therefore paying closer attention to how the system of life works and how the earth is looking these days, how you're interacting with stuff. I don't know about you, but I mean, up until very recently, I was completely freaked out by bugs and really bugged by bugs. And now I see them and I'm like, oh, hey, bro, I'm so psyched that you I feel like I'm turning into Drew Barrymore. I'm so psyched that you came to say hello. And I love Drew Barrymore, by the way. I think when you're a 45-year-old woman, that's just part of the game. Yeah, what am I talking about? I don't know. But thankfully, I like to edit. So it's like a filter for your thoughts, which I clearly don't have. Anyway, back to your sort of system. Again, it's almost like a commentary on Jessa Reed's commentary, but as you all know, I'm very touched by what she says, because it feels comforting in a way that when you're moving through days and you're moving through these sort of upgrades, finding that comfort is very difficult. And part of that comfort for me is not like hiding, but it's more just like understanding, like, oh. And speaking of understanding, just a little side note, I've been officially diagnosed with ADD. It's not a surprise. Anyone who talks to me could tell you that. I pleaded with my therapist to please just diagnose me officially, and she was basically like, I know you have ADD. You know you have ADD. I just want to know why you need the diagnosis. And I told her, which was absolutely true, I need the diagnosis so that I can like get off my own case. It's not as a way to kind of, I mean, probably, I'm sure I'm going to pull that out. I think I pulled that out a couple of weeks ago. Like, you know, as an excuse or anything, but yeah, it's somewhat of a explanation. It's not an excuse for behavior, but it's an explanation. It's a deeper level of understanding. And for me, that was important because I've developed this story of myself as being lazy and stupid, which sounds ridiculous, right? But this is the nature of the kinds of stories that we develop for ourselves, you know, and that we keep going and we feed them. So I'm just kind of at this point where I'm like, oh, I recognize that this is a story that I'm telling myself, that it's okay to be this way. But right now I kind of don't give a shit, you know, because I'm like, all right, I know this is a permission slip, and I know it doesn't really mean anything, but it's a gift to my little old ego, who's very wounded, along with that inner child. They love to, whatever, aren't they the same thing? Who knows? We are all the same thing anyway. I mean, ultimately, we're just looking at ourselves. We're not, you know, we're being forced to look at things that we're not connecting with internally. And we do that through relationship. We do that through relationship with other people. We do that through our relationship with the life around us. One of the things that's kind of come up for me also is that we're all having such different experiences, and, you know, we kind of have to take that into consideration. I know this year off has given us all the time to really look at ourselves and really understand ourselves a little bit better, really understand what it is that makes us uncomfortable and what it is that is just, you know, like that feeling of kind of like the rug being pulled out from under you, but like, why is that happening? So it's like we're running into these experiences where we just hit a point that, you know, we do kind of have to change or shift or move. And that's not an easy thing. All of this is hard. Every single second of it is hard. But ultimately, you know, we are experiencing this shit. I was talking to Jermaine about it earlier this week. Like, we're experiencing a lot of shit. But are we going as deep into the valleys as we used to? Probably not. If you think about it, probably not. You know, shit keeps coming, but if you think about it, the shit is kind of breaking up into smaller pieces, you know, more palatable. So don't worry. Don't think about eating shit. Get that out of your head. But the way we're kind of moving through it, it's like the pieces are becoming smaller. They're more manageable. Where it's a little bit easier to deal with the shit. But it's breaking up because we're moving outside of it just a little bit, because we're getting to those points where, you know, we don't really have to be concerned. Like, I am having some perception issues myself. I'm definitely feeling sort of weird things happening. Weird to me. I know kind of what they are because I've heard other people describe them, but they feel different to me. This is just kind of has to do with how I'm experiencing time. And I'm experiencing it in a way that feels weird to even talk about. But I think that that's part of it. And what I want to say about kind of like all of the shit that's kind of breaking up, it's like as we kind of expand into this newer upgrade of experiencing ourselves at a different frequency, at a different sort of dimension. Not a different frequency, but a different dimension, because we all have our own sort of signature frequency, like a signature fragrance. So we all have this sort of signature frequency, but, you know, we're essentially like a big tree, you know, like our roots are down in 2D. And then as you move up the tree trunk and then into the branches and all that, that's kind of like it's all the same thing, but we're moving into the next level of existence. We're moving into our own personal next level of existence, and everything that we're experiencing starting from the inside. And you know, if you're into this and you've been listening to this for a while, then that's not a surprise, right? It's all from the inside. It's all a reflection from the inside. But then, like, what do we do with this information? Because we still have to, you know, go to the dentist. We still have to. We're still human. We still need certain things that you know, that these bodies are sort of craving. But, you know, one of the things that Jessa Reed was talking about is, you know, these bodies are new. You know that even just studying science, like your cells are regenerating constantly and your physical body is actually different all the time. It's changing, it's growing. It's like actually all that material is new material like all the time. So it's not strange to think about it this way, where you're evolving, there's more than just the physical body. Like everyone has to know this by now. There's this energy body, there's the light body, there's emotional body, there's all these different, you know, and it's not news, you know, this has been studied for, you know, thousands of years. Like these are bodies that we have access to, and now it's just getting easier. It's where we have to let go of the heavy stuff, break up the shit so that we can see through things a little bit more. And it really is just about seeing them. And by seeing, I don't mean seeing visually. I mean becoming aware of it. Seeing, you know, that it exists, being made aware of its existence, the existence of yourself on multiple levels. And one of the things that I'm personally experiencing right now is a lot of, it's like I'm weaving my dream time into my reality. And it's a little scary and a little crazy making, because you don't know if you're breaking or this is just something that's like ascension symptoms. But it's like, again, we're not ascending anywhere. We're just kind of like expanding. We're softening up. We're vaporizing in a way. But there's that energy is becoming more accessible to us, that sort of magical energy that our bodies are meant to become. Like we are spiritual, energetic, multidimensional beings, and we are feeling this now. This is what it is. This is what it feels like to shift into that. It's nothing we have any really reference point for, other than talking about it with one another and realizing how fucking crazy it is. So one of the things that I'm noticing as well that everything in my environment is kind of pointing to, and what I'm hearing other people talk about, is this idea of self-care. I'm trying to kind of pinpoint what it is that is kind of bringing it up. For me, I hear the word self-care, I see it as a ploy to buy new products. Like that's what I literally see it as. But it's shifting for me now because I'm understanding that there's a degree to which I am just throwing my hands up when it comes to caring for myself and my body. You know, I should be flossing, and now I am. It took me like 40 years. Like it takes a while to kind of like shift into like a new and better habit. It's like we all know we're supposed to be doing certain things, but what is it that actually got me to do it? What got me to actually start I can't believe I'm telling you this. all of you. What got me into starting to floss my teeth is literally I saw a clip of Sarah Silverman talking about it on her podcast. And she said it in a way that hit me at such the right moment, at the right time. So never shy away from what you're putting out there and think it's not going to affect someone, because it can affect someone in a way that you could never have anticipated. But this little clip, now that I trace it back weeks ago, got me to finally, floss my teeth. But I know that it's not just that it was the clip. It's that the clip came at the right time for a reason. It was the thing for me in particular at that time that just put me over the edge into that, like, I'm gonna fucking do this, because I've definitely taken the lazy route on that one. I can't do stuff unless it's like really fun and exciting, and flossing definitely is not. But now I'm understanding it in a deeper way. For me, in my personal belief, this is an aspect of my higher self bringing this into my reality so that I will see it in a way that touches me. I feel like that shit's coming at us all the time. And if it sticks, it fucking sticks. So Sarah Silverman, who will never hear this, thank you so much. I also want to bring up this idea of kind of giving yourself time and space in a way that is like out of your environment. I recently took a sort of mini vacation over last weekend to a hotel that was 3 miles away from my house. I am extremely grateful for this experience. I hesitated for such a long time because of how like fucking entitled it is and fucking spoiled like these are all the things that were popping into my head, like what a spoiled brat, like what a princess, blah 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 blah. I did it, and it worked in such a way that I could not have predicted, simply because I needed more space between me and other people. I happen to have roommates. I've mentioned this before. I live in a house with 3 people. 2 of those people are pretty much need machines, and I am on call 24/7. Do they need me? Are they hungry? Did they clog up the toilet? Sorry, guys. Anyway, these are all things that are constantly being thrown into my energy space, and I had to put tons more space between me and everybody else. I envisioned like a very, indulgent weekend where I would like go to the best restaurant and have like a sensory experience. But I was actually making myself feel guilty because I didn't want to do anything like that. I kind of thought I should get a massage, but there was a part of me that was like, you don't want anyone in your energy right now because, it's sensitive. So I was like, oh, I need to like hide out like I'm in a bunker for 2 days. And I went food shopping. I got some healthy frozen food. Healthy frozen food exists, sort of. Not really, whatever. It worked for me. I didn't have to interact with anybody. And the biggest challenge for me was not feeling guilty. Again, this is unique to my own experience and my own history. So seeing that as self-care and almost even having to shift what I thought of self-care, but it's this idea of doing what's good for your body, doing what's good for your mind, doing what's good for your energy. And these are different things. These can be things you might not expect. And yes, might not have to purchase. But if you do purchase them, there's no shame in that either. Like if you feel good going to get your nails done, then you do it. My mom got her nails done every week. I spent every week in a nail salon with my mother. And then also a hair salon. Every single week. She really knew how to do it. It was also, though, a little bit of the reason why I shy away from those kinds of things, because I'm like, oh, that's what self-care is supposed to be. But no, that's what self-care was for her. So no judgment on what your self-care looks like. Just be aware of whether that's adding to your energy or draining out your life level, whatever. It's a matter of like noticing what's needed for your body. One of the exercises that Laini Risto, my beloved teacher, Laini Risto, just going to say that again. If you haven't listened to the episode where we interviewed her, please do so. She says, look down at your stomach. When you're asking yourself what you want, what your choice is, because when she would ask me things, she says that I start looking at the sky. And like, she was right. I didn't even notice that. She's like, look down at your stomach. So look down at your stomach and ask your body what it needs. Ask your body if something feels right. Again, I'm totally pulling from Jessa Reed again. You know, one of the things that she mentioned is your body is going to be that much more able to tell you. So it's time to really start building that relationship with your body, asking it what it needs, asking what it needs to feel better, asking what it needs. And you're going to get that information. You're going to get it in whatever way. You know, again, for me, my information would come through sort of like my imagination. That's just how it works for me. It's also the feeling of it. You know, when we talk about clairsentience means clear feeling. You have a feeling about something. You get a feeling, right? This is the most common clair ability, you know, in terms of like perception outside of the 5 defined senses, right? Because there's so many more. So anything outside of those 5 senses, it's like they're coming online for you and me. Whether or not you're paying attention to it doesn't really matter. So, you know, if you're listening to this right now, most likely you're paying attention to it. But most people in the world do not understand that this is what it is, because in their reality, it's something different. And whatever it is for them is just as valid as this. So if you have people in your life who are experiencing these sort of like symptoms, but symptoms of a disease. I don't even like the word ascension symptoms. Can we stop saying that? Because we're not ascending, we're not going up, and we're not, you know, suffering from a disease. This is just your body evolving into what it's meant to be, into, you know, you've got higher DNA that is activating right now. And if you want to learn more about that, I recommend looking up Sandra Walter. Sandra Walter is an amazing sort of ascension guide. So look her up. I'll include a note in the podcast notes if I remember to. Anyway, you know, your DNA is activating, and it's a lot of stuff that's been lying dormant for a while is just basically coming online. And, you know, do I believe this? Do I feel like this is like, you know, science has to catch up to it? Yeah, personally, yeah. But if someone's like, that's crazy, that's bullshit, I would also be like, okay. But, you know, it feels okay for me to believe that. I'm not really hurting anybody. So, you know, if it feels better to think about it this way, then please do so. Because it ultimately doesn't matter if what I'm saying is true for you. What matters is how it makes you feel. Does it feel true for you? Does it feel like bullshit for you? Both reactions to what I'm saying are completely valid. So, you know, another part of this sort of expansion that I want to throw in there is this complete and full acceptance of the whole. Okay, so this idea of everything is both. Is everything also duality? Yes, but it's also non-dualistic. And this, again, comes from perception. Are you perceiving something from the 3rd dimension? Are you perceiving it from the 4th dimension? Are you perceiving it from the 5th or the 6th or the 7th or the 8th dimension? You're going to experience different forms of reality when you're perceiving it from different dimensions. And again, these are we're just accessing these dimensions. these dimensions of ourselves, right? This all has to do with you. That's why it's all about the work on yourself. It's all about the shadow work. It's all about the observing yourself when you can, in moments, becoming aware of things that are operating in that programming subconsciously. So you're becoming aware of all the parts of yourself. And again, it's just this holistic thing. Another aspect that I'm sort of picking up on is this idea that I get a sense that the world is dealing with these ideas of good and bad in a very real way. A lot of the sort of fighting and conflict, personally, when I distill this down, it comes down to this idea of what is good and what is bad. And as you know, these are all constructs. This is completely constructed through different cultural perspectives and filters. So what is good for someone who lives in Cambodia is going to be different for someone who lives in Argentina. So it's like these ideas of good and bad are coming up for a lot of people because we want to be good. We all want to be good. I've noticed this for myself. I've noticed that coming up for myself. So I want to be good. I want to be considered good as well. I think that's also coming up for people. Like, I want to look good. I want people to think that I'm good. Again, these are difficult things to admit to ourselves, but the deeper you go in the work for yourself, unwrapping your stories, figuring out what they are, and even seeing how we always tell stories. This is what humans do. This is a big part of how we have evolved. Storytelling is, one of our favorite things. We love our projection, fire in the cave. It's like we really love our projections. This is a huge function of being human, but the projections are going to be getting a lot stronger. And as you see, they're getting a ton stronger because it's a little bit a higher level of energy. So with that higher level of energy, things can move a lot smoother. But if they're not sort of in that flow and you're not like really surrendering to your flow, it's going to be choppier and difficult. So any of the stuff that we're still holding on to, we're going to experience it in a really strong way, which feels really shitty. But on the other side of it, we're going to be experiencing things at a higher level of energy. So it's going to be both. And a lot of this is, again, like holding both. We're going to be experiencing these really high joys. Again, they're impermanent, right? Because that's how life is. It's cyclical. But we're also going to be experiencing some deeper things that really hurt, but ultimately it's the healing work that has to be done. And when those issues kind of come around again, they won't hurt as much. So the stuff that really hurts right now, and that's really sort of down, like in the dark stuff, it's just the deeper and darker stuff that needs to be dealt with, that needs to come out. Some people are going to be stuck in there. Some people don't give a shit about any of this stuff, and it's just not their bag. This is not what they're into. They're not really concerned with this. But to the people who are concerned with evolution and evolving consciously and making sure that we're doing the work for ourselves internally so that we can sort of show people the way, whether that's indirectly or directly, whether that's like passively or aggressively, but it's just in existing and embodying your multi dimensions as much as possible without fucking going crazy. You're able to kind of stay grounded while doing it, and then you'll understand how the magic can happen at all levels, because you can see the higher levels, you can experience the higher levels, and you know where to shift in order to have the stuff at the lower levels materialize. So there's a lot of us who need to be deliberate with this. Personally, I just like to jump in the ocean and float. I'm definitely more of a, wow, let's see where this ride goes type of person. I do know though that if something comes up that I really want or desire, if it's true and if it's like conscious and it's uncovered and I'm not operating through ego or shadow when I really want it, and I have to be honest with myself about that, then I know how quickly it can come. I'm seeing how quickly it can come. You're seeing how quickly it can come. I'm pretty sure. I know that I'm projecting as well. I am quite a projector. But, hopefully the movie is interesting enough. Just coming back to this idea of that sort of duality of the constructs that we have maintained and held for so long, these ideas of good and bad. So remember that we've also internalized this. So a lot of the work is going to be asking ourselves, what do I see in my behavior or my thoughts that I'm considering bad? And the reason I'm saying it that way is because we've internalized these ideas all completely differently. So, personally, when I am going through a sort of beating up phase, I'm like, well, mostly I'm doing this because I'm seeing myself as bad right now. I'm seeing and then I'm going to shame myself or make myself feel guilty about something, right? A lot of that, again, this just has to do with my particular programming. What do we use to sort of beat ourselves up with because it's not good or because it's bad? Really questioning our own definitions of what is good and what is bad. And understanding that we can and have every right to accept that we are both, because good and bad are constructs. There's light and there's shadow, which are actually not constructs. I mean, we can see it in the rotation of the earth and the daylight and the nighttime. So it's it's like they're like in 3D there is light and shadow, like very much. So, but as we kind of move into other sorts of perception, we know that we live on an entire planet. Like we know that, it's a sphere, and that when light shines on one side and it's, revolving around that light, that it's going to hit different points when it's rotating. Oh God. I'm trying so hard to not mess that up. Anyway. So, ultimately, we know that the reality of Earth is that it's not daylight all the time for the entire sphere. That's just not possible. When we, and I've kind of said these sort of things before, and I really was trying hard to say them in a way that felt responsible. And now when I listen to them, I'm kind of coming back to them and I'm like, God, I sound so like I'm trying to teach everyone a wise lesson. And the truth is, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if something is right. I'm only telling you what my experience is. And, I definitely can't tell you what's right with you, but I can tell you what I notice about the things I'm experiencing in the world. I can tell you a little bit about kind of what it feels like. And maybe I can describe it in a different way because my perception is different than yours. So whether or not my perception is reasonable or real, I guess, who fucking knows? But I don't care. I just kind of don't care anymore, because I can say it into a microphone, I can record it and upload it, and I don't owe anybody anything. I owe it to myself to just kind of to speak, because I've found that it's just a function of my own health. So again, should this be more cohesive and well planned and thought out? Possibly. But in the end, it doesn't really affect whether or not you're feeling this vibration, because I've written things, I've planned things, and I've put them out there, and people didn't receive it the way I intended to put it out. So I'm just putting out a certain vibration, and I'm throwing a bunch of jumbly words together in the hopes that some of it will touch you in a way that brings you a little bit closer to a part of yourself that perhaps you're not giving its full spotlight, time on stage, whatever you want to say. And forgive me for just not just having a melted brain. So hopefully some of this was cohesive. Obviously, we can't let this go much further. Ultimately, the point of this podcast, in summary, is a big old verbal vomit of kind of what's been jangling around in my head. I haven't been able to make sense of a lot of things because everything that I previously thought just doesn't feel right anymore. The way I work doesn't feel right anymore. The way I was receiving information and even going through the process of connecting to people's energy, that doesn't feel right anymore. So I am learning through this process to just try to be a little bit more forgiving with myself, because that tends to be my thing, where I come down really hard. And I've mentioned this before. I come down really hard to sort of avoid punishment from anyone else around me. But I also like to be the center of attention. I mean, come on. Let's be honest. I appreciate your ears. I appreciate your support. I think it's phenomenal that you're still listening. I hope that when you do listen to these podcasts, that I can sort of throw such transparency and probably overly honest, as a cry for help, sort of, information out there, or communication from kind of what's happening with me, that it affects you in a way that allows you to feel a little bit more comfortable with yourself. Because ultimately, we all feel weird. We all feel dumb sometimes. We all feel behind, like everyone, and I just want to be able to extract the moments of my life, present them here to you in a way that hopefully resonates. So I just want to say thank you. I appreciate you listening. And I hope that you can leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. I know that that's the way things are supposed to go. You can follow us at the Self Consciousness Podcast on Instagram. You can find me at jenniferway.com. And I want to make sure that I'm doing the work of a proper podcaster, but I'm not a proper podcaster. So, yeah, there goes that plan. Anyway, thank you so much for listening. And next week's episode is going to be awesome. We'll have some guests again. And that's all. Thank you.
Nice to be in orbit.